A pride parade was brought to a halt in Philly on Sunday by an angry group of counter-protesters.
We are counting down to this morning's Philadelphia Pride March.
So
it is illegal to be gay in Palestine.
Okay, I'm going to start off by saying Queers for Palestine is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. I got asked to do this. I'm going to do it because I know it'll be fun, but at the same time, I've had it with the antics of the LGBTQIAA plus community. Or should I say the
2S LGBTQPIA plus
community. Who knows what the letters are anymore? I say that jokingly because I really don't care. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, but you don't know what to comment, just leave a knife. Because I'm going to be talking about Palestine, so they could literally be coming for my neck on this one, you guys. So what happened was, several of you asked in my comments for me to talk about the Queers for Palestine interrupting the Philadelphia Pride Parade. I have some thoughts on it, not just as blanket as it's ridiculous. I'm a little more nuanced than that, as the kids love to say, but we're gonna watch the story together and then we'll respond to it.
CBS celebrates Pride.
We are counting down to this morning's Philadelphia Pride March starting at 10:30. And CBS News Philadelphia will be there at the festival and parade today. Our Ross DeMattei is live for us now in the neighborhood this morning with a preview of today's event. Hi, Ross.
Hey, Jan, good morning. A lot already going on here in the neighborhood in preparation for today's Philadelphia Pride Festival and March. The march.
Okay, I'm not going to listen to these people call it a march one more time. And if they keep trying to say gayborhood like that, still pop. Gayborhood was something people used to say like 5 or 6 years ago. That was just a fun little annoying thing to do. And then like everything else, it got colonized. Sorry, you guys, I don't mean to be dumb, but I'm not exactly going to take all of this seriously. I will take parts of it seriously because I do think there is some stuff to talk about. But at the same time, I'm so tired of hearing about colonization and all the ridiculous stuff that comes with talking about any of these kind of situations and humoring the queers. Because there is a difference between gays and queers. That's a common question that I had in my comments. People were like, what's the difference between queer and gay? And if you ask me, it's about 50 pounds. All right, I quit. I'll stop. Let's just get to the story. We'll talk about queer in a minute.
A pride parade was brought to a halt in Philly on Sunday by an angry group of counter-protesters. But it wasn't the kind of folks you might think. It was left-wing Free Palestine demonstrators who crashed and clashed with the parade, shouting things like "No pride in genocide." So you got these sort of two left-wing groups, sort of a left-wing civil war. The protesters were with the group Queers for Palestine Philadelphia, which posted a, quote, anti-pride statement on their Instagram account calling for, kid you not, a queer intifada against, quote, colonizers and capitalists, and saying they reject all celebrations of pride if they are not grounded in the struggle to end genocide. So you have Pride Month, kicking off with a parade celebration, etc., made possible by Western values. It's one left-wing group mocking another. And by the way, the one group comparing Israel and the Pride Parade to the KKK. You know what they forget, of course, is if Israel was wiped off the map in the region, there wouldn't be any Pride Parades anymore. You know, because the Middle East, the rest of them, they don't have pride parades. You can't do that.
Comparing it to the KKK, more like the gay. All right. I told you guys, I'm only going to take this so seriously. I got that from News Nation. I don't know what News Nation is. Now that I clicked on it, I'm beginning to think it's a right-wing news organization, which I don't care either way. I just needed someone to tell the story so you guys could hear it for those of you who aren't familiar, and for me to get a little refresher, because I had heard about it, but I only paid half attention because I think it's so ridiculous and so silly what's going on right now with the LGBT community. And I think a lot of what's happened is that one of the reasons I wouldn't listen to that first one where they kept referring to it as a march is it's not a march. A march is usually political. A parade, a lot of times, is fun. That's what a parade is. It's fun, it's cute, and I know they want to act like there's still a struggle in being LGBT. The only struggle in LGBT is the one that we create, and that's why Queers for Palestine exists. In my honest opinion, the only reason that Queers for Palestine is even a thing is because we as LGBT people are running out of things to complain about, running out of ways to play victim, and that bothers some of the community a lot. Not all of us, a lot of us are perfectly fine with the life that we've made for ourselves as far as being able to express ourselves, love who we want to love, get married if we want to get married. Pretty much every right that anybody else has, I have. And when I say pretty much, I don't even know that there's any right that we as LGBT people do not have. I will, though, tell you guys what the difference is between queer and gay, and then I will get into Queers for Palestine and why I think it's so annoying on so many levels, but we'll talk about it. So when people ask me about queer, I always tell them that it's changed, because queer used to be the umbrella for gender expression, sexual orientation, sexual expression, all that stuff that goes with the community. So where LGBT, as far as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, which used to be transsexual and should go back to transsexual, with those being covered by the letters, queer was supposed to cover not only all that I just mentioned in those letters, but also the non-binary, the intersex, the fat, the ugly, everything else that falls under that umbrella, because that's really what it's become. I joke halfway when I say 50 pounds being the difference between queer and gay, but it's a lot of people that nobody wants to have sex with, just identifying as something so that hopefully by casting a wider net, they can actually catch something. I really do feel like the term queer only exists because the words somebody, anybody, please, for the love of God, me was too wordy. And if you look at the pictures of any of these people, tell me I'm wrong, please. I'm open to hearing it. Now, don't hit me with don't body shame and whatever you're going to hit me with on that level. I don't care. I'm going to say what I'm going to say because I'm tired of these people ruining the community. Because a lot of these people, in case you can't tell, protesting is the only language they speak. That is their love language, girl. And again, everything I say is being said with sass, but at the same time, it's true. These people are not socially adept enough to make friends the old way. So instead, they have to turn everything into a cause and then hopefully find some community in constant outrage. The queers really are the Karens of the community. If there is a complaint to be filed, they're going to file it. If there's a letter to be sent, they're going to send it. The queers really are the snitches and tattletales of the LGBTQ community. They're always there to remind you how irresponsible you're being, how vapid you are, how superficial you are. And I always feel like, of course, I'm all of those things. I'm a gay man. But can we talk about something serious for a second? So now we arrive at Queers for Palestine, which I don't even know why Queers for Palestine would be anything anybody would think of. I did actual research for this video, believe it or not. To clear it up for anybody, I will not be talking on this video about Israel and Palestine. What I'm here to talk about is Queers for Palestine. And I know some people would be like, that's probably because you're too stupid to talk about it. And maybe, kinda, just playing. No, it's because I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes down to that.
Okay, honey.
But as far as Queers for Palestine, if you want to waste your time fighting for people that wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire, and not only wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire, but probably are the reason that you are on fire, you go ahead and do that. But when it comes to people like me, I I am not at all in favor of Queers for Palestine interrupting or stopping any kind of celebration that has nothing to do with that. I will put it this way. I care as much about Palestinians as Palestinians would care about me. I'm an openly gay man. I don't know if you guys know this. Over there, it is not uncommon for them to fling one of us off a building because of what we do. No LGBTQ person is safe, not even the highest levels of the military. In 2016, Commander Mahmoud Ishtiwi, I hope I'm saying that right, whose family was considered Hamas royalty for harboring Palestinian leaders wanted by Israel, was done in by men in his own battalion. The crime that earned him 3 bullets in the chest: moral turpitude, Hamas legalese for homosexuality. So if you can really help them out, even when you're high-ranking military, and they will still, at the end of it all, unalive you, and that's going to be the reason. I'm sorry, but those aren't people I'm going to stand up for. Also, Palestinians have said that they do not want the support of the Queers for Palestine, and they said they do not want the help of the Queers for Palestine. In a video produced by the Ask Project on YouTube, everyday Palestinians were asked, that explains why it's called the Ask Project. Everyday Palestinians were asked what they thought of Queers for Palestine. Responses were decidedly unenthusiastic, ranging from against the Palestinian cause to unacceptable and being against that totally. On the lot, only one supporter of LGBTQ people was willing to go on camera. Her advice: don't stay in Palestine. So you have the actual people telling you that they don't want you or your support, and I respect that. For a group of people to say, I would rather die than be saved, and now be aligned with people that I don't support in any way, is a very admirable thing in my opinion. But it's also a very dangerous thing, because I don't really know what you think is going to happen to queer people, LGBT people that are in Palestine. Because if you guys didn't hear the drag queen interview, we'll go ahead and watch that really quick together.
So I did a study abroad in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine.
Would you say you're pro-Palestine or pro-Israel?
Pro-Palestine.
As a gay man, I would be punished and or put in prison or killed if I were openly gay in Palestine. How do you react to that?
I didn't know that.
How did you live there and not know that? All right.
So
It is illegal to be gay in Palestine. You are punished by prison or death.
Israel?
No, Israel has gay pride. Israel is completely open to lesbian and gay people. Palestine puts them in prison or kills them. You weren't aware of that?
I was not aware of that, no. So that does pose an interesting aspect.
Have you seen the Queers for Palestine movement? It's a very common movement, but I don't see any Muslims for Queer movements.
Yes. That's where it gets gray, right? Like, that's where I feel
well,
like...
for me, it's not gray. I am fearful of Islam because there is no Islamic country on earth that embraces me as a gay man.
So, okay, so maybe I'm confused because Israel, which is still an Islam country, right?
No, Jewish.
Okay.
So Israel's Jewish, Palestinians are Islamic.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say to that. Stupidity. These people, they don't even know what they're supporting. They're just blindly supporting things because that's what's popular. And I don't know if anybody else sees this as being truly problematic. They love that word problematic so much, but nobody ever uses it when something's truly problematic. And so I did a little bit more research, and I was watching this video by this creator named Matt Bernstein. I watch a fair amount of his stuff, and I'll probably reference him on some future videos, but he's one of the people that I watch because he's so opposite of the way I think, and he's so interested in making sure that the LGBT community keeps its feet firmly planted in victimhood. Everything that is wrong with the LGBT community is something that Matt Bernstein will definitely encourage. I think I figured out why on his Queers for Palestine video, because he really likes to remind us that he's white and gay.
Look, I'm a white American gay, and I was grown in the air of homo nationalism.
But he's got long nails and he wears makeup. And I just feel like he's one of the white gays that wants to create this struggle for himself so that he can say that he identifies with people of color. And then he can pretend that he's basically a minority. And most of what they claim the struggle is all self-created. He chooses to wear nails. He chooses to wear makeup. And that makes his life rougher, I'm sure, in his opinion. There are people that discriminate against him. He lives in New York, so probably not that much, but every once in a while, somebody's going to give him a side eye. Maybe he'll get called a faggot. It's a respectable word. But maybe that'll happen to him. That is, again, of your own creation. That's the way you choose to express yourself. We'd all be ignorant if we didn't acknowledge that people are going to have opinions when you make choices like that. I have tattoos all over my face. People have opinions. Does it get on my nerves at points? Most definitely. But am I going to pretend that it's some huge struggle? And that in some way I didn't choose this struggle? For me, this guy, Matt, putting on long nails and then wearing makeup and acting like he now understands the oppressed is like me joining the Special Olympics as a runner because I'm wearing heels. And I show up and I'm like, hey guys, I'm disabled too. And they're like, hey, stupid, why don't you take off those heels and just run in the regular Olympics? Because I'm not fast enough for the regular Olympics. And I want to come slum it with you guys here at the Special Olympics. So accept these heels. They're my struggle. But if you ask me, these people are a lot of cosplay. And I don't feel that way about all white gays. I know plenty of white gays that aren't constantly looking for some sort of victim status. But Matt Bernstein is definitely one of these.
I no longer feel conflicted at all about my position on this. I am absolutely, as it were, a queer for Palestine.
Did you hear how excited he got? A queer for Palestine? Girl, get a hold of yourself. So he interviewed a guy named Mo that is a Palestinian American. He had lived in Gaza when he was super young, and then he ended up coming over here and is in New York now.
When I first saw the banners saying Queers for Palestine, there was a knee-jerk reaction I had, which was to question the legitimacy of something like that, right?
That was the smart part of you.
Queers for Palestine has become like a meme. And the basic idea is that at a lot of the protests, there have been usually queer Americans holding posters, you know, Queers for Palestine. And these photos have been turned into memes. Like, people have collaged them with images of chickens holding up a sign that says chickens for KFC.
It's funny because it's true.
But what do you make of that?
I thought it was just such a narrow way to look at this.
Welcome to the internet.
I think what's frustrating about the chickens for KFC, you know, angle is that, like, you're suggesting that, like, we shouldn't care about human rights because if we live in that society, we wouldn't have the rights that we're afforded here.
Here's the thing that's annoying. How does it get boiled down to as basic as we wouldn't have the same rights that we'd have here? You would be in jail or killed. Why are you spreading propaganda right now? Why are you trying to make things sound a way that they're not? You take away all your credibility when you do this.
Which, you know, those are slowly being pulled away from us.
What rights are being pulled away from us as LGBT people? Please do tell me.
A couple weeks ago, and a lot of comments from people I don't know, could be bots, are telling me like, oh, look, it's an American Palestinian. I bet he wouldn't go to Palestine. I bet he wouldn't go to Gaza. Or I'd like to see him go wave a rainbow flag in Gaza. And that's just so offensive.
If you think it's offensive, it's probably because it's true. Because if something's ridiculous, you blow it off. But if you get offended about something, it's probably because it's at least partially true. And he at first says,
I would go do those things, right?
And then if you notice, he changes it.
Or I would go be myself in Gaza, where I'm going to respect the cultural norms there.
Suddenly now you're scaling it back. So you wouldn't wear a flag there. Let's be clear about that. You would not. You know that would not be safe.
Or, you know, I might be a bit more cautious, just like I would in certain parts of the U.S. South.
Okay, I don't know what parts of the South you go to, but if anybody doesn't know my history, I perform in redneck rooms. I have performed in the South. But is it legal and is everybody all right if somebody decides to kill you? Because I have not encountered that in the South. I know that that may have been the case back in the 50s or 60s, but modern day South is not like that. There's only one time I ever felt truly uncomfortable in the South. We were in Virginia. One day I'll tell you guys that story. I wasn't even doing anything though, but I had a big white man with me and we were doing the road together. His name's JR, and one day we'll talk about it. My life is crazy, but it's fun. But yeah, nobody would have supported it if something bad had happened to me.
But it is such an interesting thing though, right? Because the tone of those comments that you'll receive, right? The why don't you go to Gaza and wave a flag there, or let's see what happens if you go to Gaza, or don't you know what happens to your type of people in Gaza? Like,
okay, I have a problem with this because the same thing that they're saying that they feel like they're victims of when they talk about the fact that they support Gaza is the same thing that I hear people tell me about being a Trump supporter. People always tell me, don't you know what they'll do to you? Don't you know that they'll take your rights away? So you're still doing the same thing. It's just that with one in this particular instance, that is an actual reality. With the other, that's just something people say to scare me.
You know, it's perpetuating this very racialized vision of Arabs, of Palestinians, of brown people as being like barbaric.
Not all brown people, but those brown people, yes. And the mental gymnastics that they have to do in order to compare the United States to Gaza is absolutely ridiculous.
I must be stupid. I must be unaware of how horribly they treat gay people. I'm not unaware of any of those things. What I am aware of is the fact that all forms of oppression are interconnected, that you cannot bomb people's homes and displace them permanently and cut off their water and kill them in the name of human rights.
That's between them and Israel. And I know some people are going to talk about sending weapons over and whatever else, but what I'm saying is, what are we doing? Because if we're not making that happen, I don't know why this is our problem. And really, if there was a way, I would think that the United States should just 100% completely stay out of it and let them do whatever they do to each other. Because this has been going on for years. These people are not going to figure it out. In a perfect world, yes. But in the world we live in, sorry, Joanne, it's not going to happen.
You can't do it in the name of gay rights because none of those rights will exist if that's the method that you're taking to achieve them. That's not how human rights are fought for.
Okay, go let them know. See how open they are to it there.
Liberation is all or nothing. And you can't liberate some at the expense of others.
Then why don't you go, and I don't say this at all sarcastically, I looked into it. There are volunteer programs that you can do to get to Gaza. To go to Gaza as a tourist right now is not an option, but you can go there as a volunteer. So what I would suggest is Bo and Matt Bernstein, who Matt Bernstein proudly identifies as a queer for Palestine. What you guys do is you go ahead and sign up to volunteer and go over there, make your way to the leaders, make your way to the everyday person even, and just tell them how you think that things should change to accommodate not only the local queer people, but people like yourselves. And see how open they are to it. And then come back and tell me how terrible the United States is. Because if they don't do you like Uncle Phil did to Jazzy Jeff off the top of a building though, I'll be very surprised. Maybe as you're sailing from a building, you can let them know what your pronouns are. It's they and them.
It's just crazy to me because you could very easily look at the state of queer rights in certain parts of the United States and view them rightfully as barbaric. Like the revoking of trans kids' access to health care.
That's not true. They can go to a doctor. If there's something physically wrong with them, like any other child, they can go to the doctor. What they're doing is putting restrictions on gender affirming care, which is something a lot of us in the community agree with, and something that a lot of actual transsexual people also agree with.
Of trans kids' ability to use restrooms.
Nobody said trans kids can't use restrooms. They're just saying that they can't use the restroom of their choice. They can use the restroom that goes with their birth sex. To me, when people make that argument, that's the same as if I went to visit you at your house and you had 2 bathrooms. You had one in your bedroom and then you had one in a more common space. So I tell you, I need to use the restroom. And you say, sure, here's a restroom right here. And then I say, but you have a restroom in your bedroom. And you're like, yeah, that's the restroom in my bedroom. You can't use that one, but you're welcome to use this one right here. And then I go tell everybody how inhumane you were because you would not let me use the restroom. And then you're like, hey, I offered you a restroom to use. You didn't want to use that restroom. So how am I inhumane because I didn't let you use the restroom that you wanted to use? But instead of presenting that as what it is, you try to make that seem like we're inhumane in this country. And that's a reason that we should be understanding of what's going on in Gaza.
Of frankly, an increasing number of bills and popular mainstream conservative ideas around the United States to restrict queer people's ability to work anywhere in the public sector.
See, that's where he just starts making stuff up, because that's not even true. I am tired of the LGBT community saying these things and not actually substantiating them. That is not something that's happening.
Without being humiliated online. And it's just weird because I've never seen any of these people use that as justification for why we should, for example, blow up Florida.
I cannot believe the way that these people will twist things and not even realize they're doing it, like trying to make things in America sound much worse and things over there sound much easier.
Yeah, totally. Actually, on November 3rd, the UN Human Rights Committee criticized the U.S. over its anti-LGBTQ discrimination. They've called out the laws that ban and in some instances criminalize gender-affirming healthcare for transgender persons and that limit the discussions on sexual orientation and gender identity in schools, like the Don't Say Gay law in Florida.
The Don't Say Gay bill was actually very reasonable. Also, I don't know what healthcare rights are being denied to trans people as it stands. If you're talking about the trans kids again, leave that alone. It's not a good play to run. I keep trying to help you guys out with this, but nobody wants to listen. Everybody wants to be stupid and then wonder why they don't get their way.
And so if the UN, it's crazy because the UN is calling out what's happening here in the US. It's calling out Israel for what it's doing, and we're just rejecting all of that.
This is where I say that in order to make their case, they have to make Florida seem worse than it is. In general, the United States seem worse than it is. Like we're all losing rights. LGBT people are losing rights. That's not happening. That is not true. We are not losing rights. They also go into pink washing, which if you guys don't know what pink washing is, that's Israel showing its best side towards LGBT people in an effort to further vilify the Palestinians. But with the way that they treat gays and women alone, they do enough to vilify themselves. So I'm not going to go into pink washing like I think that that's an actual thing, because the perception that you put out of yourself or your country is nobody's responsibility but your own. This is what you're putting out there. This is what you're letting people see that you are. You can be jailed. You can be thrown off a roof. You can be stoned if you are a gay man or you're a woman that's not living the right way. Everybody knows this. This is the way being Muslim works in Muslim countries. I once went to Bahrain to perform for the military. Actually, I went there twice to perform for the military, but it was in the same trip. So we went to Bahrain, we left in between, did another gig, and then came back to Bahrain and did another gig. And we were told by the guys that were handling us, the military guys, that I specifically was not to leave the hotel premises alone, because since I am a gay man, there is a chance that something could happen. So unless I had one of our chaperones from the military with me, I was not to leave the hotel premises. So I did as I was told. Then I ended up meeting a guy that actually works for the military. He's contracted by the military, but he's not actually in the military. And he had told me, because he was flamboyantly gay, white man from somewhere in the South, I can't remember where, but he had told me that the way that you have to navigate it is different, and being very discreet about everything that you do regarding being gay. So I say this to say there's such a higher price to pay and a bigger consequence that I don't understand why these people are riding so hard for this and trying to act like we're all supposed to ride hard for it. Some of us really just want to enjoy our gay lives, and if we show up to a pride parade, not a march, if we show up to a pride parade, we want to be able to enjoy that parade without having to answer to a bunch of blue-haired gays about why we're doing what we're doing. We're having a good time because we live in a country that will not jail us, stone us, or fling us off a building because we are expressing ourselves as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and yes, even queer. So how about we all just enjoy the freedom that we have? The queer people can enjoy the freedom of not having to get laid during Pride season because they weren't going to any other time of year anyway. And the rest of us can do what we like to do at Pride, which is a bunch of dirty shit your kids shouldn't be around for. We'll maybe do a video on that next. I don't know. I don't care. We'll do what we do when we do it. I appreciate you guys watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.